1,000 plus 40. Now add another 1,000, add a 10,000, or add a 40, and now we'll add 10 more. So
Okay?
I know, I'm still thinking.
Oh. I don't want to distract people when they're deep in thought.
Is it 30,000?
30,000.
Wait, no, 3,000. Sorry.
Ooh, I rarely hear that answer. Rarely hear that answer. So I would have to say that you're wrong.
Oh,
But don't feel too bad. The most common wrong answer is 4,000.
oh,
Yeah. When's the last time you had your eyes tested, by the way?
uh, I say when I was about 8.
Okay, have a look at these two cards and see if you can spot the difference. Can you spot the difference? No?
No,
No? You didn't notice a color difference? No?
no, not really.
No? How about you? Maybe this man here. Can you spot a difference? There you go. One's red, one's green. See? Now, did you not notice that? Are you colorblind?
I don't think so.
You're not colorblind. You didn't see one's red, one green?
Well, yeah, you're right.
Maybe it's the sunlight.
Maybe.
Okay. Anything else about those cards?
No, that's it, I would say.
That's all?
Yeah.
Well done. Now, we have a few other questions there, but what we want to really get down to is the nuts and bolts of what I'm doing here today.
All
Okay?
right.
And I'm trying to bring people to a discussion about the gospel.
Okay.
Do you know what the gospel is?
Pretty well.
Okay. In your words.
It's the word about Jesus, the word about God.
Okay. I don't like to wear glasses when talking to people. It can be nice, a distraction. Okay. So that's a general overview of the gospel.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you know what the word actually means?
No.
It means good news.
Oh.
Hmm. So if you were back in maybe Shakespeare's time, and they mentioned we've got some gospel, they might as well just stand there and say we have good news. And good news is something that we want to tell people about, right?
Yeah.
And what could that good news be?
Could it be about really anything?
And it could be. I mean, if I said to you, I've got good news, you've won the lottery, that might not be good news to somebody.
Oh,
I
yeah.
say, oh gosh, no, oh no, my life's going to be hell now. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we're talking about the gospel, we're really talking about the whole story that is preached by preachers of the life and the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Okay?
Okay.
So, in other words, um, do you believe in what the Bible teaches about Jesus?
Yeah.
Okay. So, that you believe that he died. Why did he die?
It's because he got hung on the cross because he was trying to spread the word about God.
Because he was trying to spread the word. Oh, we got you. You've been a naughty boy, and we're going to have to crucify you for spreading the word of God.
Yeah.
Well, that's not exactly right. He gave himself, actually. They didn't. He says no. He actually says this in John's Gospel. Nobody takes my life from me. I lay it down of myself.
Oh.
He offered his life. He sacrificed his life, and the reason is he was basically doing something for us. He was saying, "Let me take their place. Let me receive the judgment of God for their sins. Let me be judged in their place." See, we're all sinners before God, right? We've all broken God's laws. Therefore, if God was to judge us according to his laws, we'd all be doomed. Okay? There would be hell for people to pay. Okay? Now, the good news then is this, that instead of us having to bear the wrath of God on ourselves, Jesus said, "Let me bear the wrath of God for their sins on me," because he's the only one who could bear it. Okay? And then he took our sin upon himself, but also at the same time gave us the gift of his righteousness, so that when we stand before God, we're not standing condemned, having never been good enough. We can say, I'm standing here not on the basis of what I've done, but on the basis of what Jesus Christ has done. He lived a perfect life, and he gave that perfect life to me. So it's a bit like this when you're at school. And what's your name, by the way?
Oscar.
Oscar. Very good. And what age are you? What age are you?
13.
Only 13. Okay. Well, Oscar, let's say you were doing an exam, and I don't know if you reached the level where you need to do tests But if they said the pass mark is 40 out of 100, most people will pass. But if the pass mark was 60, 80, that sort of range, there'll be some people struggle, really struggle. But what if the pass mark is 100% and you must get 100% in every exam? Who's going to pass?
Not
I
a
don't
lot.
think any of us would. Okay. And what if this? You can answer this question?
3080.
No. But that was a nice try. Because what did you say? 3,000. How did you get it? How did you come up with? How did you come up with 3,000 anyway?
1040, add another 1,000, 2040, add 10, 2050, 2090,
Hmm.
2100.
Yeah, very good. Now, how did you come up with that the second time? You recalculated it?
Yeah, I don't know how I came up with it.
Very good. Well, I got two other questions there, but it looks like you're in a rush to go somewhere, are you?
No, I just want to roll.
Okay, let him have the microphone for a second. Maybe you can answer this next question, okay? You can see how well you do with it. This is an English test, okay?
Alright, fair enough.
This is just a question of, can you read? Now, you can try it as well, but can you read what's written in the three triangles?
Paris in the spring, bird in the hand, once in a lifetime.
No, that
No,
wasn't-
once in a lifetime.
Oh, you got it. Is that stutter?
Once in a lifetime.
Do you think you got the other two right?
Paris in no, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
You
not
see,
there.
and I find this, that when the person who's reading it isn't a native English speaker, they usually get it right.
Huh.
So are you naturally Irish?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Where are you from originally?
Here.
Okay. That's unusual.
Yeah.
But you got it wrong on two of them. So 2/3. It's like the pass mark I was saying to Oscar here. What's your name?
Sean.
Sean. So if the pass mark was 100%, none of us would pass at
Yeah.
school, right? And what if, right, the pass mark to enter into heaven, let's say, okay, would be 100%. And I'm not talking about maths or English, but I'm talking about morally. Okay, who would get in based on 100% perfection?
Probably no one.
Probably no one, unless, and I've used this illustration. Okay, supposing somebody, say you owed a debt of 15,000 euro. Okay, and someone came along and wrote a check with your name on it, Sean. 15,000 euro. Put that in your bank account. How much do you now have?
15, well, plus whatever I have and 15,000.
No, let's say you had zero. That you were. It was
nothing,
minus
yeah,
15,
so
right?
15,000.
So,
yeah.
so that brings you back up. If you had zero, right, you would have zero still. Okay.
Yeah.
But if someone was to say, "I'm giving you 30,000," that means not only is your debt paid off, but you'd also have extra in the bank, right? So, typically in Christianity, which is what people usually hear, and that is this: God wants to forgive all your sins. Right? If that's all there was to it, then that would leave you with zero. Well, 100%, all your sins are gone, but unfortunately, only those who have lived a perfect life get into heaven.
Okay.
Then the problem is, well, do I start over and now do I begin to live a better life? Never going to do it anyway. But if somebody was to give into your account spiritually, morally, and say, here's 100%, somebody who has lived a perfect life says, give that to them as if it's theirs, then you can stand before God saying, well, I'm not standing here boasting about my own goodness, what I've accomplished, but I'm boasting in the accomplishments of someone else.
You get a nice little reference.
Huh?
You get a nice little reference to get.
Well, who would that referee be? It would be Jesus Christ himself lived a perfect life on this earth, okay?
Fair enough.
Without sin. And yet he wasn't doing that for himself to say, see, I can do it. Like I can set an example. He was saying, I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it so I can give you my moral perfection as a gift.
What a legend.
Any questions?
Not really, no.
Okay. Is this your friend as well?
What?
You're another friend?
I'm just listening.
Okay. Well, listen, guys. I'm here, as you heard earlier on, doing a bit of street preaching. Okay.
Only.
And we use this as a sort of a springboard. Now, I'll go on to our third question if you want to finish it off.
Go on, I'll do the third one.
Why not? This is a tricky one, okay, but you have to be quick as possible. The first person with the right answer might get a little prize. So, off you go. Very good. That wasn't the question. The question is, count how many F's there are within the phrase or within that box or within that paragraph. Okay? And if you don't have the answer, Sean, you can pass the mic on to our friend here in the middle or on to Oscar. It's like on a TV quiz show. Answer Creek, you have to have 3. Pass the mic. What's your name?
My name's Sean.
Oh, Sean. Well, we got 2 Seans here spelled differently. Who knows?
Is it 2?
Oh, below average. And Oscar?
I'm gonna say 3 as well.
Okay. Now, the average person does say 3, but there are in fact 6. And you didn't see all 6. So what's wrong? Do you not know which ones you missed? I know which ones you missed, by the way. I don't even have to look at it. I know which ones you missed. You want me to show you? I'm guessing that one. And that one. And that one.
Oh my god.
Are you religious all of a sudden? Oh my god. Now, anyone have any other questions? Such as, I've got 3 questions that I'd like to ask people, but you don't have to answer them, okay? First question is, whoever wants to answer it, you can stand closer together. Yeah, we don't have a problem with the microphone then. Is there a God? Okay.
I'd say there is.
You don't know. Maybe you're still trying to figure that one out.
I don't think you can figure it
I think you can.
out. All right, some people think you can. I
Yeah.
think you can.
Pass him the microphone because he might have an interesting comment to make here.
It's not that interesting. It's just an agnostic position. I don't think you can say there is. I don't think you can truly say there isn't. Either.
Right. So, but you can have a reasonable amount of information and say, based on the best information available to me, it seems highly likely that there would be a God.
Oh, well, based on the information available, I'd say the opposite. I just say you don't have enough to say there isn't.
Okay. So if I was to say my favorite construction on this would be, well, things exist, don't they?
They do.
Right. Why do things exist?
Well, if the argument is, oh, why do things exist?
Yeah.
There must be a God.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
Why do things exist?
Why do they
Yeah.
exist? I don't think they exist for a particular purpose, just other than they exist.
Okay.
And why does anything
Okay.
exist?
So there is things are in existence, though, aren't they?
I believe
Rather
so.
than non-existence.
True.
Okay. Did they always exist, or have they been brought into existence?
That's the thing. I don't think you can answer that.
I think you
question
can.
definitively.
Try to answer it.
Have they brought in? Well, how could you definitely know they've been brought in
Well,
deliberately?
We
a
know,
purpose?
for example, right, that things do exist.
They do exist. Yeah.
So there's only 2 options, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
That they brought themselves into existence, or something or someone else did. Okay?
Well, yeah, it can be a result of a natural process. Whether or not you want to call that God or not.
We're not talking about natural processes here, because I'll tell you why.
Okay.
First of all, you're admitting that things are in existence,
Yeah.
rather
they're in
than
existence.
non-existence. Okay.
Yeah, things are in front of me
So-
existing.
Did those things always exist, or were they brought into existence?
I would say, I guess they came into existence.
Right.
They were
Everyone's
brought
in agreement there. Even the scientists, the greatest scientists, have come to the conclusion there was a beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's my point. Yeah.
And the beginning of what exactly?
The universe.
What is the
reality,
universe?
Space,
Time.
everything around
It's
us
time, space, matter, motion, and energy.
is.
Can you separate one from the other?
Can you separate mass from energy?
Hmm.
From a physics standpoint, I have no clue. Can
Okay,
you
say for
separate them?
example,
Everything's
In my hand.
as a result of particles and
What's this?
heat.
All right. So you recognize this as matter.
It is.
It's taking up space, isn't
It
it?
is.
If
At
I
a
was
point
to
in
throw
time.
it to you,
Yeah.
it would travel through
Space
space
and time.
and time, requiring motion
And
and energy. So you can't separate one from the other,
No,
but
yeah,
you can
everything's
distinguish.
intertwined, yeah.
You can distinguish one from another, but you couldn't separate one from the other. And so the universe would really be the beginning of all of those 5 things at once, boom, coming into existence.
Yeah.
Something then that brought it into existence, or someone. I'm not saying it's either. I'm just saying those are the most likely possibilities. Let's say if it was a something brought everything else into existence, then what that thing is cannot be made of the same kind of things, such as it would be immaterial, okay, timeless, and having power to make power and matter and energy and all of those things. Now, I would say that sounds very like God to me, but the opponent would say, why does it have to be God?
Well, what I was going to say is just bring it back to the argument. Where did God itself come from? Then?
Does God have to have a beginning?
Well, then we could say that for everything. We could say, was the Big
But we know
Bang
that
have to be
no,
the
but we
beginning?
know that matter and all of these things have had a beginning. We know that.
Well, I wouldn't say we know either.
Oh,
we just
yes.
assume.
No, I think we know that.
Well, how can we know?
Well,
that?
because if you go back to even the great telescopes who looked at the beginning of space, and even Einstein had to admit, he says, well, yeah, I had now concede that there was a beginning. They're all...
No, we know. No, I'm not saying there wasn't a Big Bang.
Okay.
I'm just saying that, like, you could even bring it back to, like, this theory of Big Bang being crunch, of whether or not the universe is a repetition of itself, expanding, contracting, and expanding again.
Yes.
And even then, like, my point is, no one knows enough. Definitely no one knows enough to prove there is a God, but no one knows enough to prove there isn't one.
Okay. However, say, for example, you walked home to your house and you saw 15 ping pong balls sitting on your doorstep.
Okay.
What's the first thing you say?
How did they get there?
Maybe you have to flip that one out for the camera. You wouldn't say, oh, what a random, just completely random thing that happened. I mean, sure, that happens. Like, your first thought would be something like this: who or what or why would they be here? You can recognize some sort of organization in it, that something or someone did it, but you would never conclude it just happened.
Well, if I saw 15 ping pong balls around my house, I would go, yeah, that
not
is
just
weird.
around your house, but sitting on your doorstep in a certain order.
Okay, yeah, well, that's a very, very strange hypothetical.
Or marbles, or anything.
Marbles, yeah. If I saw 15 marbles laid around my house, I would assume someone did it, yeah.
But not just laying
Unless
around your
some
house,
amazing
in a certain order.
Okay, yes, that would be weird, yeah.
Right, because we recognize intelligence, we recognize order, we think that's here. Language is all over our universe. Language, okay? Coming from an intelligent mind. There's no question about that.
Okay, all right. Well, then I guess you could say everything in the universe had to have been a deliberate decision by that intelligence.
Yeah, you could probably say that. Based on the evidence, you'd say that's the most likely thing. Okay, so what I was just simply saying is that at the very beginning, that there is either someone or something. Okay?
Okay, I can kind of see what you're trying to say. I mean, anything, I know that 15 marbles laid around my house would be weird, but...
Not just laid around. I'm not talking about scattered around, like find
sure
one
how
here.
that has to do with the structure of the universe.
Well, there's order. You see there's order in everything. DNA, language, information. It's all ordered and organized by some intelligent mind.
Okay.
Okay? And all I was simply saying is that you could conclude two things. One or the other really are the only options. That it was someone or something. If it was a something, then would you think that the thing has a mind and an intelligence or a reason or a personality to even come up with any of this stuff? Whereas if it's a personal God, a God with a personality, that makes a lot more sense because you see evidence of that personality around us.
You don't think it could be the result of natural laws that just...
Where do laws come from? You tell me where any laws come from.
Okay, well, where did God come from?
Does he have to have come from?
Do the laws have to have come from
Yes.
somewhere? Well, then
Because
God
you
would
can
have to come
trace
from
you can
somewhere
trace
as
the
well.
laws. You can
You just get into a repetitive cycle. We could go like that all day. You could say, well, the laws have to come from somewhere. I could say, well, God has to come from somewhere.
Well, why do you say God has to come from somewhere?
Well, why do you say the laws have
Because
to come
they're a
from somewhere?
cause.
Okay, well, then God has
No,
to
no, they're not a cause. Sorry, they are an effect of a cause. Okay, you can say that's the result of something. I can trace it all back to an intelligent mind. But what are you going to trace God back to? Someone who created God? I mean,
well, that's my point. That's my point against God.
Why would it be against God?
Because you can argue that for everything. If you say, okay, the laws of physics have to have come from somewhere, you can say the same argument for God as well.
Well, that's what Bertrand Russell made the mistake of saying. He was thinking that he thought the scientific law was that everything that is an effect has to have had a cause. Therefore, God must have a cause. No, everything has an effect. He's not there.
Well, then everything doesn't have an effect then if God transcends it.
Well, he's the one who created. He got the first ball rolling, if you like. Do you know the first cause?
I understand the mystery of we don't know where things started, but I don't think that's a reason to.
But with all the information, before you, even if you had all the information, you still might likely say, "I still don't care if there's God or not." Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, possible to know everything, I guess, but
God. Let's say
my point.
Let's say God does.
There's definitely enough. I don't think that you can definitively prove God doesn't exist, but I definitely don't think you can definitively.
Oh, you definitely can't make the statement there is no God. No one should make that statement.
Well, I just think it's a bit foolish because if you're gonna say, oh, there is no God because I can't see the evidence, well then you just drawing yourself into a bad position of you know you don't know everything.
That's
so
an
how could
absolute
you make
statement,
it
in other
finish?
words.
Yeah, it's absolute. How could you make an absolute statement? Uncertainty. Uncertainty is the premise of your belief.
It's
So my point,
actually works better the other way around. Say, for
well,
example,
no, if you flip it, then you are like certainty in the face of uncertainty.
well,
Isn't
okay,
it?
say, for example, I made the absolute statement, there is no gold in China.
Okay.
What would I need to know to be able to make that kind of a statement?
Well, you would need to know everything about every
Okay.
position in China. Was there gold in every possible space in China?
And looking in every Chinese person's mouth.
Yeah, I know. It would be an impossible statement
Okay.
to make.
If I was to flip that around and say there is gold in China, how much evidence do I need?
That's my point. You'd need a lot of evidence.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, so you have to just find one piece of gold.
That's exactly right.
But my point is, when you're saying with God, we don't have the luxury of looking for, is there a God like that, in the same way as a physical object.
Well, you're probably not going to find God by looking for him.
I know, that's my point.
And in fact, the Bible says there's none who seek after God, no, not one person.
I know, yeah, it's a spiritual connection people make, as in, people look for answers, and I think they might invent the reason.
So all I'm simply saying is that whatever brought time, space, matter, motion, energy into existence isn't that itself.
I understand what you're saying. I know it could be something else, but I'm not sure it has to be a sentient body, is it?
I'm not, and as I said, I'm not saying that it definitely has to be God, although I believe that, right?
Okay, yeah, I understand
But
that, yeah.
I would say of the two options, that someone or something has always existed, okay?
Okay.
These are the best options, okay?
Okay.
Of those two, I would go for a personal God.
All right, fair enough. Look, I got to go anyway. I have my
Thanks.
rugby game.
Thanks for that. And
Do you want the mic?
okay, thanks. Okay, so you can hold this. You're a local man as well?
No.
No?
I'm from Cork.
Oh, from Cork.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to clip that onto yourself, that's even better.
I just hold it, It's
just,
gone on YouTube.
It might do, depending on the quality.
Yup.
Or you want to be on YouTube? Maybe you've got your own YouTube channel.
Nah, I don't.
No, okay. So, did you answer a question earlier on whether there is a God or not?
Yeah, I think there is.
You think there is?
Yeah.
Are you saying, like this fella, but I don't know for sure, but 99%? Or is it more like it's 50? 50?
Nah, I say it's highly likely those gods.
Highly likely, okay.
Highly likely.
Okay, second question is, what's your name again?
My name's Sean, yeah.
Do you have a soul?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. What do you think happens to the soul upon death?
It goes to, I believe those are two dimensions. There's the material world, which is what we see around us, what is material, and then there's the spiritual world, which is like the consciousness. My belief is what we know as God, the higher power that we know as God, is the spiritual world. That's kind of what I believe.
Mm-hmm. The higher power sounds like New Agey kind of language, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Does
God.
Sound of it. Yeah. But you see, if everyone says that I have my own higher power and someone else has their own higher power, like for example in Hinduism, there are 300 million gods. In Islam, how many gods are there?
There's Allah.
Yes, but that's the word for God.
Yes.
Right? Which could be any number of gods, but only a particular one. Say, for example, all these balls. See all those balls around there? If I said, yeah, the word for ball is God, or is Allah. Let's say, for example, the word is Allah for all these balls. I believe in Allah, but we only believe in one of them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what about the rest? Oh, we just ignore them. Just ignore them. They don't exist. Yeah, but that's simply the meaning of the word. If you talk to a Mormon, for example, as well, a Mormon will say something like this: we only believe in one God. But if I ask them, what about all the other gods? Do they exist? Well, they exist, but we sort of ignore them. So basically, those people are polytheistic. Okay? I'm not saying you're saying that, but when someone says they're a higher power, this could imply all kinds of things, such as, who is your higher power?
I don't know.
And that is why, did you know that do you know the Ten Commandments at all?
Yeah, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not
murder. Okay, what's the first one? The very first one.
Thou shalt not murder.
No, that's the sixth one. The first one is, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength. You shall have only one God, basically. You shall only have one God.
Monotheistic.
Yeah. The second commandment is this: do not make for yourself any idols. Okay? Where does an idol begin?
An ideal.
Yeah. And there's a famous theologian called John Calvin, and he said that the human heart is an idol factory. We're very good at coming up with our own gods. And in fact, somebody also made this little quip: God made man in his own image and likeness, and man has been returning the favor ever since. We're very good at making up our own version of God. I'm turning this off because it's maybe distorting. There's many people come up with their own version of gods, and it is pretty much idolatry, okay? Because they imagine a God that they're more comfortable with. They're not too keen on the God of the Bible. So they say, well, the God that I believe in is a little bit more lenient, or not as hard going on things. He's not a judging God. He's more of a loving God. So they've got all these sort of ideas of what God is. So I just simply was asking, what would be your view of God?
My view of God is God's beyond human comprehension.
Okay, it's funny how when we're trying to describe God, we have to use words in a negative sense, like incomprehensible.
There's nothing too wrong with being incomprehensible.
Yeah, but if I said God is indescribable,
only people, like we're not gonna understand everything.
Yeah, so we'd use words like that: indescribable, incomprehensible. Okay, yeah. But God is also able to reveal Himself, isn't He?
Yeah.
What would be the point if He says, "Well, you'll never understand one thing about me"? If He comes down to our level and says, "I'm going to give them like this," I give them the Word, my Word, and they can read it for themselves, and it's not going to change. It's going to be there for them to read it for themselves, okay? And let it challenge them, okay? So I'm just saying all that because people might say, well, I've got my own view of God, and I'll give you a quote from James chapter 2, verse 19, and this was the half-brother of Jesus. He said, you say you believe in one God, monotheistic, right? Well done. But the devils even believe that, and they tremble. At the very thought of God, the devils, who know that there's one God, they tremble at the thought of God. And yet, do we do that? Do we tremble? Oh dear, there's a God, and I'm going to have to face Him one day. Did you know this? My third question was this. Like when, and I did ask it, I think, what do you think happens when someone dies? Are you sure what happens? Your spirit or soul, the immaterial part of you, leaves the body. Okay? The body returns to the ground, to dust. Okay? But as for, there's two things I could add to that, and that is this. God has promised a resurrection of the body. Okay? Just like when Jesus rose from the dead, and He didn't come out of the tomb in the same body with all the scars. It was the same body without the scars, because He came out with a glorified body, a new body. In fact, His disciples wouldn't recognize Him. Okay, so that's because it was of their eyes were withheld from understanding who He was, but He gave them a glimpse of what the new body's like. Now, when your body falls to the ground and is buried, whatever, the spirit goes in to another dimension, as you said, right?
Yeah.
But do you know where?
No.
Okay. I'm going to give you a text from the Bible, okay? It's found in Hebrews chapter 9. It's a very well-known text, okay? I've used it many times out here on the streets. And if you want, you can even read it yourself. Can you read that? Or is it too hard with the glasses on?
Nah, I have dyslexia, bro.
Okay,
so
Hebrews. Okay, I'll read it to you. Hebrews 9:27 says this: and as it is appointed for men to die once, but after this, the judgment.
Yeah, it's pretty good quote.
Okay, so that's what it's saying. We die once, but after this, there's a judgment. The question is, Sean, how do you think you'd do if you had to face the judgment of the God of the Bible?
I don't know.
Well, when you say you don't know, you think, I'm hoping for the best?
I don't know. Like that's up to Him. That's not up to
Okay,
me.
what if He told you? It would be a bit unfair, to be honest, okay? To say to somebody, hey, guess what? You failed the test. Okay, I'd like to know where I went wrong. Oh no, you failed, and that's all there is to it. Oh, but tell me, did I, like, say you went for an interview even? Why didn't I get the job? We didn't like the look of you. Okay. It wasn't to do with my qualifications. No. Oh, or you went for an exam, you failed. What? Show me. The teachers, even after doing a homework, right? You get your homework, you get it back with markings like, here's where you got what you got wrong. You'd want to know, well, where did I miss it? I mean, was I like 1 point short of getting into heaven or something? I mean, wouldn't that be terrible to find out? Yes, you were just 1 point off. If only you'd helped another old lady across the road. And that's what some people think, that you've got to do certain things to get into heaven. It's not. You need perfection to get into heaven. And that means that there's not one of us qualifies. Now that might sound terrible. You go, really? Does that mean that every one of us is not qualified for heaven and we're qualified to go to hell? Yes, that would be true. Unless, of course, there's a turnaround, and it's called the gospel, where God himself says, I know, Sean, you'll never meet the target. You'll never, even if you, a miss is as good as a mile in football, right? Even if you said, I was so close, you failed. But I've got good news for you. Jesus himself is God manifested in the flesh. He came into this world, lived as a man, lived a perfect life, and then he took upon himself the judgment that we deserve, saying, let me take their place, judge me for what they have done wrong, and give them my perfect righteousness, so that they can stand before God, not with their own record of good deeds, but with my record of my good deeds, my perfect life. And if we stand there with his righteousness, we pass. God says, I accept you based not upon your own self and what you've done, but upon what Jesus Christ has done for you. That's the whole point of the gospel. That should cause people to rejoice. But they're like, oh, well, if that's all there is to it, I'll wait till later in life when I'm more interested in these sort of things. But you don't know when you're going to die. You don't know what the future is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, any comments? And this man here is from Ukraine, and your son, how are you?
Igor, Roman.
Yes, you got my message, yes? Text message. I sent him a text message that I would be here today. So, yeah, he's from Ukraine. Dobry den.
What's your guys' names?
Igor.
Igor,
Igor.
Roma.
Roma. Nice to meet you guys. My name's Sean. Pleasure to meet you guys.
Okay, Sean, any further comments?
Not really. I just wanted to hear what you had to say.
Okay.
I like being open to different views. I know. I just like hearing. I just like learning. Like, I think that's why we're on this planet, to learn. That sort of.
Well, you're on this planet for such a time as this in history, and you didn't play a part or choose when you're going to be on this planet, did you? You didn't say, I've decided that I was going to be born at this time, to these people, to this place. You could have chosen anywhere other than Cork. Some people said, I wish I wasn't born and living in Tralee.
Yeah, but everything happens for a reason.
Yes, but do you understand what the reason is?
Nope.
Okay.
You have to find out.
Maybe we don't know. But there's some really, really good scriptures in the Bible, okay? One of the most well-known, for example, Paul the Apostle, was persecuting Christians because he thought they were way off, until he had his own encounter with Jesus Christ, the risen Lord. And you know what he wrote? This is a very interesting verse. You might want to remember it. Romans, it might be on video. You might see it later on anyway. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. Okay? Paul wrote this. And we know. Now he's not guessing here. He says, and we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. For whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that we might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he predestined, these he also called. Whom he called, these he also justified. And whom he justified, these he also glorified. Now, you might not see it as I've just read it there, but he's talking about a chain of events that stretches time and space. He's talking about events that took place before the world was ever made. He says, whom he foreknew. Foreknowledge. Before you're even in the world, okay? Before you're ever born. Whom he foreknew, these he also predestined. Now, think of that word. You've maybe seen the movie Predestination, or you've seen time travel movies, or things to do with if you could change events, the butterfly effect, all kinds of movies like that, right? But this is predestined. That God predestined certain events to happen to individuals in this world, and they may not understand it at the time.